forget the day I met Link. It was a warm spring day. I was on my usual trip back to Hyrule with my wagon of goods to sell in Hyrule Market at the annual Spring Festival. I have been a traveling merchant since I was 14. This is my 6th year returning to Hyrule. The last 2 years I was not able to return when Princess Zelda sent word of an evil presence in Hyrule. Then all contact was lost. For almost 2 years I tried to contact Princess Zelda. Desperately I kept trying to find out if she was ok. I was never too long without contact with my good friend. Then I was considering going to investigate, when one day word came in that peace had been restored to Hyrule due to the legendary Hero of Time. After some catching up time with my old friend, I came to find out what really happened. Seems that a Gerudo named Ganondorf, an evil man from Gerduo Valley, desired the legendary Triforce. Though the Triforce was only told in fairy tales to the children where I came from, I was amazed to find out it really existed. She told me how she played with things she knew nothing about, and about how Ganondorf tricked the soon-to-be Hero of Time into unlocking the door to the Sacred Realm. I even noticed that Zelda was a little older than I. Last I saw her, she was 4 years younger than me. It was told to me that when Ganondorf went into the Temple of Time and into the Sacred Realm, time jumped ahead in Hyrule 7 years, yet only 2 years passed in my land, and in the rest of the world. After the Hero of Time defeated the King of Evil, the hero was granted to either return to the past or to remain in the present time. Since he chose to remain in the present, Zelda jumped ahead of me in age by 4 years. It seems that everyone in Hyrule jumped in age from the rest of the world. But now that peace was restored, life resumed in Hyrule. ... As I made my way down the desert trail that led to Hyrule, I began to think about whom the legendary Hero of Time was. I was very interested in meeting this man. Princess Zelda never told me his name, but I was going to make it a point this time to finally meet Hyrule's hero. As I turned off the dirt trail and onto Hyrule Field, Hyrule Castle appeared in the distance. Dust and dirt kicked up behind the wheels of my wagon as it creaked along. Then as I came closer to the gates of Hyrule Castle, a familiar face appeared to greet me. I pulled back on the reins to make the horses come to a complete stop at the front gate, and I realized that the person greeting me was my good friend, Princess Zelda. I have been a good friend of the royal family ever since my first arrival in Hyrule 6 years ago for Hyrule's annual Spring Festival. Ever since the first day I met the princess, I have been one of her closest friends. I was even considered part of the royal family. After I climbed down from my perch on the wagon, I ran over to Zelda and hugged her. "Hello, Princess Zelda, my good friend. Yes, it is good to see you. How have you been?" Looking at her, I could tell she was happy to see me. "Oh, it is so good to see you again, my friend. Come, come. Father is waiting to see you." Leaving my wagon to be tended by the stable hands, I followed Zelda through the marketplace and to the gates that led to the castle. As we approached the castle gates, I saw some of the same guards I have seen in the past few years. Saluting to Princess Zelda and me was a guard named Perino. I met him a few years back, during one of my first visits to Hyrule. He was one of the guards that befriended me the first time I arrived. He smiled a friendly smile as we passed by. "It's nice to see you again, Mistress Jenna," he said as he waved. As I smiled back, I thought to myself how good it was to be back again. We went through the front gate and made our way towards the palace garden. Upon approaching the gates leading to the garden, another familiar face appeared to greet me. As we walked closer, I realized that the face was of Zelda's caretaker, Impa of the Sheikahs. As I crossed over to Impa, she turned to fully face me, and a small smile crossed her face. "It's good to see you, my friend. How has life been treating you?" Impa asked and put a hand on my shoulder. "Oh, fine. Nothing out of the ordinary. I had to chase some thieves off on the first night that I was on my way here, though after some facing time off, I was able to chase them away with my bow." Then I made a big grin as I remembered the looks on the thieves' faces when I rained arrows on them. "Well, it seems that with the abilities you possess, you should have no problem keeping your possessions safe." With another smile, Impa gestured for us to go into the garden. That is where I met him, the man that took my heart. As we walked into the garden, I saw a young man, green, with his back facing us, polishing a rather odd sword. As I watched him, I had begun to notice something about the sword. It had a rather odd shape on the hilt. The hilt was blue, with the top of the hilt looking like a fish's tail. The sword looked rather strangely familiar. I leaned over to Princess Zelda and asked her who the young man was. "That is the legendary hero of time. His name is Link," Zelda replied. My eyes grew as big as saucers as I turned to look back at him. "You mean he is the hero of time you told me about? The one who saved Hyrule? Then that must be the legendary Master Sword he's holding?" Zelda nodded yes. Just then Link turned to look at us, and with one look at his face my heart sank into my chest. He was the most gorgeous man I had ever laid my eyes upon, and that moment I fell in love. His eyes were like looking down into deep blue pools of water, his lips firm, his ears long and sexy, beautiful blonde hair that parted in the middle, and his body was so tight and muscular that it took my breath away. When our eyes met, I blushed and swiftly looked away. He approached me and took my hand in his, gently kissed it, and asked, "Who might this beautiful young lady be?" I turned my head back to face him, and as our eyes met again, I blushed. "My name is Jenna. I'm a traveling merchant from the great Labian coast. My village is there. I have been a friend of the royal family for a long time, and I come here every year for Hyrule's annual spring festival." He looked into my eyes and smiled. Watching him smile made my heart pound in my chest. He again took my hand in his, kissed it again, and spoke. "Nice to meet you, Mistress Jenna. You are as beautiful as a winter rose," he said as he stared at me with his enchanted blue eyes. Thank you," I stammered as I blushed again. "What are you doing tonight?" he asked with a soft smile. Stunned, not believing my ears, I turned and looked directly into his eyes again. Nothing really. I was just going to retire to my wagon and cook supper before settling in front of a fire to read a book." With a glint in his eyes, he asked, "Why don't you join me tonight in Kokiri village for the annual spring night celebration?" "Two." "It is a celebration feast that happens the night before the spring festival." Without hesitation, I took him up on his offer. "I would love to go," I said with a soft smile. "I will pick you up this evening," Link said with a grin. Just then a deep voice rumbled through the garden. "Jenna, my dear friend, how have ye been?" A grandfatherly face appeared before me. With a smile I curtsied before the king. "King Zelda, my old friend, how I have missed you!" "I have been just fine. It is really nice to see you again," I said with excitement in my voice. As always, the king thought of me as a daughter and always looked forward to the day when I would arrive in Hyrule for the annual spring festival. He always liked to see what new merchandise I have picked up through my travels since the last time I was there, and most of the time he would buy something from me, but he always liked it when I would show up, since I would bring lots of fun and happiness. As I looked at the king, I realized I was somewhat at home.